Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks, where do creative people come from? My name is Andy. I'm the host of the show and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. How is everyone doing? Great episode this week. This is Juel Taylor. If you don't know who Juel is, I'm going to read you his bio right now. Originally from Tuskegee, Alabama, writer and director Juel Taylor at first wanted to design video games. But in college, he shifted his focus to filmmaking. He did different jobs in sound while he was waiting to break through, and in 2018, he co-wrote Creed 2. Directing gigs on Boomerang and 20s followed, as well as co-writing Space Jam: A New Legacy in 2021. This all culminated in Juel's first project as co-writer and director, They Clone Tyrone, which was released last year on Netflix and was one of the best films of 2023. Naomi and I cannot stop talking about how good They Clone Tyrone is. I was about to say was. Continues to be. Oh, you're asking, Andy, what were your favorite films of last year? What's the list? I like They Clone Tyrone, Past Lives, May December, Theater Camp, Dicks. I would say, I don't watch as much film as I should. There's a lot of great films that I saw My Dinner with Andre for the first time last year. That was amazing. I love that. It's very inspiring. I really liked Poor Things, American Fiction, and You Hurt My Feelings too. And Plane. I'm laughing because it is a Gerard Butler film about a plane hijacking, and it should not be good, but it is incredible. And I should really have more filmmakers on the show. I guess, I don't know. I really hate having to reach out to reps, which is what you really have to do with filmmakers. Like, there's a lot I would like to have on, because there's so many indie filmmakers specifically who have shaped the direction of my life. Then you have to figure out, all right, who do I go to? Do I go to the publicist? Do I go to the agent, the manager? Who's going to be? It's really... Although I'll say this, for Juel, was a delight. I think I just wrote some rep somewhere. Are you enjoying this, everyone? This intro, peeling back the curtain on how to book folks for a podcast. Anyway, love They Clone Tyrone. Juel was a delight to talk to. He zoomed me from his car, which has been a theme in the last year on this show. Talking to people from their car. Either they are moving to a different state, they are trying to get away from a roommate or a loved one in order to have a frank conversation. And yes, these conversations are frank. I'm laying people's souls bare. But we had such a good talk. Juel is such a good dude, and I'm really glad we could have this talk. It turns out we have very similar childhoods, despite the fact that he grew up in Alabama and I grew up in Pennsylvania. I think that says something about just how homogenized American culture has become in the last 40 years. But yeah, hope you enjoy this. If you have not seen They Clone Tyrone, you have to watch it. You have to. And you know what else you have to do? If this is your first episode of Beginnings and you're like, hey, this was a good talk, I really like this, you need to check out other episodes of Beginnings. I've been doing this for over 14 years now, and I have done hundreds of talks with musicians and writers and filmmakers and performers and comedians and tons of other people from all creative walks of life. But that's a lot of episodes. You can obviously just pick one at random. Or what I like to do here in the beginning is a little recommended if you like. Here's my talk with Juel. Juel is a screenwriter, a filmmaker. What about other talks I've done with filmmakers and screenwriters? Why, I've had Jeremy Pixar on the show, Reds, Bulworth, many other things. Cord Jefferson, who just wrote and directed American Fiction, Leslie Headland, Bobcat Goldthwait, Terry Winter, Hal Hartley. So check out those episodes if you like them. Subscribe to the show, leave a review, click 5 stars on Spotify and Apple. You can find me on social media, I guess. Just a fucking slog right now. At Andy Beckerman. I guess Instagram's safe. And coming up on the show, I just talked to Andrew Kenny, the lead singer and songwriter of American Analog Set, one of my favorite bands. So stay tuned for that. But for now, let's talk to Juel. This is not so serious. How are you feeling inside?
Right now, I feel good. You know what I'm saying? Can't complain. How about yourself?
Do you want to get into a serious question? This is what I've been thinking.
Yeah. Oh, fuck it. Yeah. Well, why not, man?
Because it's Emmy weekend, and I'm just like, do I care anymore about any of that stuff?
Existential woes. I got you.
Like, there was a time when I did, and then now we're in this space where kind of like every society is falling apart. I'm just like, I still think making stuff is meaningful. Making the thing is the meaningful part, but do I give a shit about the rest of it? And I don't have an answer.
That's interesting because I mean, making it is definitely the rewarding part. I would imagine it's the rewarding part for everybody involved with it as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of the fond memories come from the making of it. So yeah, I think that's not a bad outlook. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with appreciating the process part of it as opposed to the postmortem.
But I've become almost nihilistic about the rest of it, where I'm just like, I truly don't know if I give a shit about any of the rest of the trappings. And I think I should, because I need to care about that stuff in some measure in order to get hired to do the next thing.
True, but I would also argue that, like, I mean, it's the Nick Saban, and again, I'm so glad that motherfucker's gone now because I went to Florida, so I'm a Gator. So, but that process-oriented approach, you know what I'm saying? I think clearly he cares about winning championships, but he really cares about, like, let's just do this drill right. Let's make sure the routes are run right. Let's make sure you blocking and tackling, you know what I mean? And then, like, naturally the ability to continue working is a byproduct of enjoying that process. So I don't think you're too far off, honestly, because, whether or not it succeeds is so out of our hands. Like, if any given project, you know what I mean? Like, it's so out of your control in the sense of you might love it, but it's all subjective. So someone else may hate it. As long as you love it, you feel good about it, you enjoy working on it, you really, tried your best, then it's like, you got to be able to kind of just live with it anyway. So, I think it's secretly, I feel like it's healthy to divorce yourself from that part of it.
Do you think you came into this industry with your eyes wide open, though? Or did you have to, or did being in Hollywood suddenly, like, you're like, oh shit, this is how it works?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely, I mean, I'm from Alabama, so it's like, I didn't know anybody at all. I had no, I was an art major in undergrad, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I didn't have any formal training until I went to USC. You know what I mean? When I halfway through undergrad, I switched to interdisciplinary film because there wasn't any film program in Florida. And I didn't even really become really aware of, like, what the path to being a director, it wasn't something I was privy to really in terms of people around me. I wanted to make video games. I wanted to be like Hideo, you know what I'm saying? So I went to college hoping to become a video game designer. And so I didn't, the classes that I took for interdisciplinary were like crit studies oriented, like film analysis classes, and I did some theater. I just kind of cobbled together the closest thing to a filmic degree that I could, kind of manage. And so naturally, like, there was a bit of, orientation in terms of coming out, like, of how it works. And even USC doesn't really give you that orientation really either in terms, it's not till you actually, like, get a job for real and kind of see, like, oh shit, like, okay, there's definitely a normalcy to it in a lot of ways that I didn't think. Because I used to think before coming out that, like, people who, even at USC, I still thought, like, okay, like, this is a cabal of people that's, very, got it all buttoned up. And then you get into these rooms and like they're driving Priuses, they live in apartments. You're like, damn, they these are people green lighting them. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, there's always gonna be the Scott Stubers and the big bosses who making the big money, but like a lot of the influence on a day-to-day level is people that's just super normal. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it's a weird split of like kind of getting used to, you know, the person with the final say so is behind three walls, but the people who influence the person are very normal. So it's a very like interesting kind of ecosystem to kind of get acclimated to because it'll trick you into a false sense of feeling like, oh man, I could do, I could you think like you're like one coffee away from like setting something up, I'm gonna set up a Star Wars movie because you feel like I know these people, but at the same time, it's like you don't know Bob Iger. Like, you don't know the people who the real directives come from. And a lot of times, what I'm saying, like it's easy to kind of get in business, but it's hard to get it to the finish line because there's always some stopgap somewhere that you're like, shit, who passed? Like, you know what I mean? Like you look up and somebody done passed, but you never met the person who passed because like, or maybe you met them, but you don't really have a relationship with them. You don't really know them like that. And so, I think there was an education, there was a like getting used to phase of it, you know what I'm saying? But I think just in general, like, going back that it's so unpredictable, like what gets steam and what gets momentum, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, all right, we're just gonna sit at the house. We're just gonna keep on banging out these scripts and, just doing stuff that we like. And naturally some of these things won't fall into place and hopefully some of them will kind of situation. So it wasn't too crazy to get, your feet wet once you kind of got into it, but it was definitely different than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing that I didn't realize was like at the end of this process is an extremely wealthy white man named like Chad or Rick or something. And you have to in some way get that person to empathize with you. And that's why I've noticed like if anything that's not like about a wealthy white person in 98% of the cases, it has to be didactic. It has to be like, this is what my life is like, white person, and you should find me empathetic, and then you should want to put this there. That's
I feel you. I mean, our biggest fear for Tyrone, and we said this all the time. Our biggest fear was Tyrone was like coming off as didactic, coming off as preachy. You know what I'm saying? Like, we really wanted to make a mystery movie that was fun. And if you want to look into it, you can. But like the goal was like, man, I hope you watch it and like you enjoying it as just, the same way you would enjoy Jackie Brown or Boogie Nights or Big Lebowski, you know what I'm saying? And if you happen to read into it and go down like Reddit rabbit holes, so be it. But like, we were very careful when we were pitching it at every step of the way. Like, it makes me think of like, don't be a menace message, you know what I'm saying? Like it's that, right? Like, you feel like Keenan Ivory finna pop out message, and it does, there's a invisible pressure to feel like you got a message, as opposed to like, I just want to see somebody whooping somebody's ass in a kung fu movie or whatever it is, whatever it may be, you know what I'm saying? And, again, I think like the more, the more like financially successful, like somebody like Jordan Peele, like the more financially successful they are, I mean, I think it naturally just gonna kind of make space for, more genre, more popcorn oriented things that don't necessarily feel the need to be didactic, in terms of the messaging and, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, it's funny because we all can sense it, you know what I'm saying? When it's like, obviously you'll have a byproduct of people who, are just naturally going to recoil against anything that they feel is didactic. Understandably so, you know what I'm saying? Like, again, like, it's escapism and for a lot of people. So of course, if they perceive it, there's so much cynicism, kind of how you mentioned earlier. There's so much cynicism that like, I don't think filmmakers get the benefit of the doubt anymore. You know what I'm saying? Because there's nothing inherently wrong with being didactic if you have a, you know what I'm saying? Like if you got something you want to say, ain't nothing wrong with that either. You know what I'm saying? I think the cynicism comes where they feel like, that message oriented filmmaking is strong armed into things that otherwise weren't,
Uh-huh.
something that wanted to be a popcorn movie, but in order to, you know what I mean, to in order to get the green light, if you are like a black person or, what I'm saying, or someone who is a quote unquote minority, then gotta also slide that message in there. And I think there's a cynicism that just is naturally in certain audiences, they're gonna look at that and be like, here we go again. You know what I'm saying? I guess they can't make a movie. And it is frustrating from a creative standpoint to feel, you know, like damned if you do or damned if you don't. Right? Because it's like you might want to make a popcorn movie, but every there's a certain contingency that might be like, well, it's not saying anything, and you feel a added weight of just by the numbers, not as many black people making with the opportunity to make movies. So by the numbers, you feel like an increased pressure to say, okay, well, I got to make sure, like, if you're one of the X amount of people who are fortunate enough to be able to make a movie, I got to make sure I'm saying something, so so to speak. So there's that damn. And then, of course, if you don't say something, you know what I'm saying, then you're feeling like, okay, did I make something that's just vapid? You know what I'm saying, or did I make something that like empty calories? And so I think you just kind of have to just say fuck it, you know what I'm saying, and again go back to like what makes you feel good, because you ain't gonna be able to please everybody no matter what it is. And so I think at the end of the day, if you enjoying what you're doing and it happens to have something that feels like it's got a message in it, all good. If you don't, you know what I'm saying, I think you just kind of got to be comfortable just like taking the swing either way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be someone that you have to appeal to that you just can't appeal to in any given project. So, and then, but again, it's like I understand the cynicism. It's like we all, you know what I mean? Like we all collectively feel something in the cinematic, like, you know what I'm saying, like zeitgeist that is making certain people feel like they want to recoil against conventional modern blockbusters, you know what I'm saying? But I think a lot of times, you know what I'm saying, it's confirmation bias, right? Like you feel like you saw something in one movie, so if you see something in the next movie, these filmmakers may be completely unrelated, never talk to each other, different studios, but you see XYZ scene and you feel like, oh, there goes it, there it goes again, you know what I'm saying? And they might be completely unrelated, you know what I'm saying? And maybe it just happened to be a byproduct of like a person just replicating their own experience that gets politicized. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm black, I put a black person in a movie. Like I don't think it's political. You know what I mean? Like if a woman puts a woman in a movie, you know what I mean? Whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? Like they probably not necessarily looking at it like a political act, but in the aggregate, when you see XYZ movies and you have a certain point of view towards it, I think each one becomes just another example that is, you know what I'm saying, oh, there goes another one, you know what I'm saying? And so it's definitely an interesting landscape to try to make stuff in.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I'd written a script and I sent it to my agent and she sent back it's a fairly political thing, and then she's like, everyone's just saying political stuff. They're not talking like actual humans. And I'm like, right. Maybe in the next draft I should tuck some of that stuff in there. And so it's not so messagey, even though what I really do want to like, what I loved about Tyrone so much was that it was saying something. And at the same time, it was a super entertaining film. It wasn't like holding like a white person's hand and like, look, see this world.
Oh yeah. No. Oh yeah. Like 100%, like I said, 100%, you know what I'm saying? I think it's a lot of, we try to have that type of stuff in a tongue-in-cheek way. You know what I'm saying? Like we try to have, fun with it in a more tongue-in-cheek kind of way. And again, like, it was just things to ponder. Like that's how we thought about it. Like things that me and Tony would talk about and just observational kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Not so much trying to draw any particular conclusions, but more just like if you wanted to, if you wanted to read into it, there's something that you could read into, you know what I'm saying, but not necessarily like force it down your throat, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so, you
Yeah.
know, for some people, successful. So for some people, they might have thought it was didactic, or you know what I'm saying? They might have thought it
No,
was
I
force
mean,
down your throat. Who knows? You
no,
know?
I'm just going to tell you outright, one of the best films of last year. It was great.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
But I want to go back to something you had said earlier, because you said you had originally wanted to do video game design. I'm
Yeah.
curious, was that actually your ambition, or did you want to make film and you had kind of like thought, I don't know how to get from here to there, but I do know how to get from here to video game design, so I'll do that? Or was it always video game design and
No,
then you
yeah.
found film?
I think I always liked the storytelling aspect of it, but I was definitely was not consciously thinking like, I mean, I knew what, like I said, I knew that film directing was a thing. I knew it was a job, you know what I'm saying? Like you know, I was, aware of the career path, but it wasn't something that like ever popped in my head, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause I'm just from childhood, like I'm a much bigger gamer than I am even like a cinephile, right? And I've always loved movies, you know what I mean? And I always feel like I have been somewhat of a cinephile, but I know people who are much bigger cinephiles than me that I went to film school with, but I only know, I got like one homie, maybe two homies that are as big a gamers as I am. Like, in terms of from the days of, when I was, before I could read, trying to play my older brothers, trying to play my older brothers' video games, you know what I'm saying? And just, I think I always loved storytelling, but just it expressed itself. I'm like wanting to make, I always wanted to make like the next great RPG, you know what I'm saying? Even as a kid, you know what I mean? Because before I was read, I was trying to play his RPGs, you know what I mean? And so by the time Super Nintendo era came out, I'm all in, you know what I'm saying, in terms of just like Breath of Fire and, Lufia, and obviously like Final Fantasy 6 or Final Fantasy 3 in America. But like, so I was always playing like, like adventure games and like, kind of fantasy oriented games. And so I always had, like I used to watch like Record of Lotus War back in the day, you know what I'm saying? So I always had like a big kind of fantasy kind of bent. And so those are the kind of things I would imagine as a kid, and so that just kind of, I think it was a natural leapfrog from one lily pad to the next by the time I, kind of randomly made this short film in college, undergrad. And I was like, oh, I like that. I could see how, I could apply, what I'm saying, or scratch some of the itches that I had, or that I wanted to scratch, but was not scratching because again, there wasn't a video game design program in Florida. So I was really trying to do this engineering art hybrid major. And I would have did it, but I didn't get accepted into the major. My portfolio got rejected, right? So, it was kind of like, oh shit, I got 60 credits I'm going to be a generic fine arts major, drawing, figure drawing, sculpting, painting, things like that. But that's not what I really came to college to do, you know what I'm saying? So it was kind of obvious that I wasn't going to be doing that pseudo animation program that they had. Then it was like, okay, well, what did I enjoy while I've been in college? And it was like, I really enjoyed that one little toe dip in the filmmaking. You know what I'm saying? And so I think all those parallels just kind of exposed themselves between like gaming and filmmaking when I got to college, and kind of, okay, I think I like playing the games more than making them. You know what I'm saying? I think when I got to college, I realized like I hate math. Like, you know what I mean? It's like certain things like I hate math. And to be fair, you don't necessarily have to be a math genius or like an engineer, an engineer's mind to be a game designer. But the hard sciences, coding, those were clearly a more obvious path to making games. And I didn't actually enjoy any of that. I enjoy writing. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I enjoyed writing. I've always enjoyed writing, and so I'm like, I like writing. I like epic fantasy shit. You know what I'm saying? Oh, with filmmaking, I can kind of see a clear path to like the aspects about it that I actually enjoy.
Was there a specific video game that kind of like captured your imagination when you were a kid? Or was it just like, oh, I played Dragon Quest and now I'm playing Final Fantasy and now I'm,
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because there isn't in a lot of ways because I mean I really have been like since like Burger Time on NES and what I mean track and field with the pad like I've been playing games before I could even read the text on the screen. You know what I'm saying? So from the Duck Hunt to the I'm dating myself a bit, but I think like I really blossomed into loving games. I mean, I in the Super Nintendo, Genesis era, and I'm obviously like the PS1 era is the golden. The N64, I blossomed into really loving games in Super Nintendo, but it became like, I always assumed that my life would have something to do with the gaming from basically around when the PS1 came out. Um, but picking a specific game because it was so like just omnipresent, I guess, from my memories. But I mean, I definitely think like that Chrono Trigger.
uh-huh.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because I was a huge Dragon Ball fan even before it was like back when it was like Ocean Subs, and you know what I mean. Like it would come on like UPN and like you know what I'm saying. Like it was you kind of had to you know get the slow drip of Dragon Ball Z. But when it came on Toonami, I think it was like accessible, but then you had to go on like eBay and try to like order like real player CDs that had episodes burned onto them onto VCDs, and you could like watch on real player. So Toonami made life a lot easier in terms of watching Dragon Ball, but I was like trying to get my hands on like Dragon Ball stuff even before then, which with great difficulty. This is like the mid '90s, but obviously like just seeing before even understanding, because my brother's 16 years older than me.
Mm.
So he was a big gamer. So I'm playing, he had Turbo Graphics, he had Bonk, you know what
Yep.
I'm saying?
Yep.
He had the NES, you know what I'm saying? And so my older brother was an RPG and like Dungeons and Dragons, you know what I'm saying? And so I didn't really understand the games back then, but I liked them because he used to play them. So I used to try to play them. And so naturally, just like the art style, you would gravitate towards the art style. I didn't beat Chrono Trigger when it came out. Like I was in second grade. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like I loved the game, but I didn't beat it until several years later. In terms of like I didn't beat damn near any of the games when I was that young. You know what I mean? Like I circled back like a few years later and really started like this is early stage emulation. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Oh, I remember.
Yeah, and so like like I beat Chrono Trigger for the first time on an emulator. You know what I'm saying? Like not, but I had it for SNES. But the games just fascinated me before I was like really seasoned enough to be able to beat them. You know what I'm saying? And so I would say those are some of the first games that really fascinated me and kind of really hooked me. And I think PS1 era is, if I'm being kind of when I was really like getting into it, you know what I'm saying? And so like PS1 era, N64 era, so obviously Ocarina of Time, even though
Yeah.
again like Link's Awakening is like the first Zelda game that I beat, you know what I'm saying? Like but I played Link to the Past again, had to circle back to beat it because I didn't beat it when it came out, you know what I'm saying? But obviously I would say like that 97, 98, 99 era is when I would say I was like, yeah, there's no way that I'm not doing something video game related. And so, because 98, you're talking about Metal Gear Solid, Ocarina of Time, like it just hit too hard in the paint, you know what I'm saying? And so I think just generally speaking, I don't know if it's a single game, but like I used to love working designs. Anything working designs would come out with, anything Atlas would come out with. So I love Lunar, Silver Soft Story, Eternal Blue, like, you know what I mean? Like these games, like, were kind of formative in terms of just crystallizing the fact that I wanted to do something in this sphere when I got older.
Did you start like writing ideas out for yourself? Like I remember when I'm a little older than you. So, like Nintendo for me is like the NES is like, I was in like third grade maybe or something when it came out. And I remember making what I called paper video games. So I would draw like a Mario type level out on paper, and you would have to
on graph paper, because
that's how finger through it.
That's how they design the games, on graph paper. Like that's how they would design stages. I never did. I actually always used to. I used to like write rhymes and do music. So funny enough, like the writing came from like when I was a kid. My older brother used to rap too. You know what I'm saying? So I used to like try to write rhymes. And so I in terms of writing, that was what I would do. And I used to do a lot of drawing, but I would always try to draw. Like I would go on like Planet Namek, back in the 90s, and go to like Planet Namek was like the shit, what I'm saying? Like that was like late 90s, and I would download pictures, print them out, and then like draw them. And before that era, what I'm saying, I would like get like the cover art of like games and try to draw them, or like the book. Like so, like I remember when Tekken 2 came out. You know what I'm saying? Like I like the Juel case. I would try to draw the pictures out of the Juel case. And so before the internet was really popping, and like this was the Dragon Ball sites started to really pop up on the internet like later in the 90s. But like when like in the mid 90s, I would get like Nintendo Power, EGM. And I would try to draw the pictures, you know what I'm saying? And so like that was because I, even that early, I didn't know what manga was, right? Like, like second grade, like, I didn't know what manga was, but I knew what anime was. So, I would watch anime that my brother watched. So I, like the early to mid 90s when I was really, really little, you know what I'm saying? I would try to draw from like magazines, you know what I'm saying? And like try to draw the picture of the magazine. And by the late 90s, I was getting more into like really heavy into anime by like the late 90s, and when kind of the days where you could actually go to like, what's I'm trying to think, not trying to think of the record store now. It's like it's been so long that like the actual like CD stores that would be in the mall, I'm like forgetting the names of them.
Coconuts,
but they would have like
Sam Goody.
Sam Goody. We had Sam Goody. We had Sam Goody in Alabama. We didn't have Coconuts. But like, they would have like the DVD section where you could buy the anime, you know what I'm saying? That started popping up like mid to late 90s, you know what I'm saying? And I think like around that time, I think it's not necessarily like trying to draw the games, but I was really big into drawing in general. Yeah. And so I would, I just naturally started to try to draw different kind of things, drawing different kind of, things I would download off the internet, pictures I would download off the internet, or like things I would get out of magazine, box cover art from like DVDs I would buy, you know what I'm saying? I remember getting Ninja Scroll. I remember getting Urotsuki Doji and not realizing it was hentai, you know what I'm saying?
Oh no, wait.
Oh yeah, Urotsuki Doji, Legend of the Overfiend. Back then I would just go, and every week I would just go and just buy anime. I wouldn't give a fuck what it was. I would just see the cover art, and I knew it was for adults because like the old shit had like the warning 18 and up. But I still didn't realize it was hentai until
I don't know. It just has a bunch of tentacles. I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah, Legend of the Overfiend. You know what I'm saying? Like, shout out to Urotsuki Doji for those who know. But I would, you know what I'm saying? I think that was kind of how I guess like practice and scratch that itch as a kid. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so like. Writing rhymes, and drawing pictures. That's pretty much it. Writing rhymes, drawing pictures.
Yeah, this is all very familiar to me. My into some of this was comics, so I'm sitting there in class drawing Gambit or Wolverine or something like that.
Gambit was my favorite X-Men, but I wasn't a huge. I had comics, but I wasn't like a huge comic book reader.
Yeah.
One of my classmates was, though. I used to borrow a couple of his every once in a while, but he had all the X-Men comics. One of my classmates was like obsessed with X-Men. But yeah, I was more into the video games and like trying to like buy anime out of Sam Goody and, Spencer's and like one of those kind of stores,
Yep.
Uh, but nah, that's a rite of passage though. Drawing from taking a comic book and trying to redraw it, I feel like is a rite of passage.
Although my era was like Rob Liefeld, and so like everything, like if you learned from drawing from a lot of the people in the '90s, like,
And is he the one who had those crazy proportions?
yes,
Is that
and like you can't draw feet, and so like
Yeah.
if you learn from that,
Yeah.
your drawing style becomes very distorted.
Very yeah. Because he's the one who got really cool with Todd McFarlane, and then they ended up like falling out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know I'm familiar with. I mean, like I used to keep up with it a little bit, but I wasn't like huge in it. But I remember Rob Liefeld. I remember like that's the dude with the big crazy proportion.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that I mean, I think we all have some version of the same story. He was either playing Dungeons and Dragons, or you was reading comics, or you were playing video games. But it's all in the same. It's all in the same world. It all kind of like feeds that storytelling. It's maybe before you become consciously aware of filmmaking as a potential outlet for it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm from like a like not small town, but like just like a non-major city in Pennsylvania called Reading, and there wasn't much to do. So you hung out with your friends, you would drive around, then you would go play GoldenEye or Tekken.
Of course.
And that was your night because there was nothing else to do really. You would get in some mischief usually, like some little thing, and that was that.
Man, we would hang out in Walmart. We would hang out in parking lots. Like I'm from Tuskegee, and I grew up in Tuskegee till I was like 9, and then I moved to Montgomery, which is literally like 30 minutes from Tuskegee. It's basically the same area. And there's not too much to do, you know what I'm saying? And there, it was parties, and we had like teen clubs, but by and large we would go to Walmart, walk around, hang out, or people would go chill in the parking lot. You almost have to fill up the time a little bit, if you I mean, to me that is like Americana. You know what I'm saying? Like for most people.
Fucking around in a Walmart parking lot or a Blockbuster parking lot.
Oh my God.
That is the quintessential like late 20th century, early 21st century, like American teen.
That's the American graffiti that's coming. You know what I'm saying? It is. I'm serious. You know what I mean? Like there's gonna be that. I mean, me and Tony talk about it all the time. Like, man, like I would love to make a time capsule movie that's, that American graffiti texture of the Blockbuster. Because I mean, you said a lot with the Blockbuster era, like right, like that era of like where everything was obviously still tactile. You know what I'm saying? Where you still had to run errands for your entertainment. You had to run an errand to be entertained. I gotta go to Blockbuster, pick up the game, go back home. Shit, I only rented 2 games. Why didn't I rent 3? Fuck, I'm gonna go back to, you know what I'm saying? Like that era is very nostalgic. And I think as with most things, you need 20 plus year distance from it to really start to feel this collective nostalgia, this mass nostalgia. And I think we are definitely in that Blockbuster nostalgia period.
Yeah. I mean, it's so like friends, we would go to Little Caesars, get crazy bread, sit out there.
CC's Pizza.
CC's Pizza.
I don't know if we had CC's.
Yep. I know that. And then someone who had gotten subwoofers in their car would come and blast music in the parking lot.
Oh yeah. It's the same story, man. It's the same story. Even from Alabama to Pennsylvania, no matter where you at, it's the same story, man. It was a simpler time, but it was like, I would trade it in a heartbeat in terms of just the general status quo to go back to the days of Blockbuster in a heartbeat.
It genuinely, I think being that bored is what fostered in me like a desire to want to do this. I wasn't aware that I wanted to do any of this stuff at the time. But like eventually when I'm like sitting here like in therapy and be like, oh, right. That's the stuff. Being bored with your friends and just fucking around and like throwing around ideas is what eventually inspired me.
Yeah, I mean, I think like there's a balance between like a lack of stimulus to, you know what I mean? Like the ideas, you had a chance to like, things had a chance to gestate, you know what I mean? Like between intervals of entertainment, you know what I mean? So I think, like it's even now, I mean, like I think one of the trickier things is like everything being so accessible, it's hard to actually like stop and think of new ideas. They come randomly, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying, almost all the time. But like it's hard not to get, you know, distracted almost with just like how much sensory, overload is happening at almost all times, And so again, it's like on the one hand, if in reality, if you went back and it's like, damn, I don't have DVR, I can't like pull up something on my phone right now, you'd probably go crazy now because you've been exposed to it. But when you think about like how sticky things were and like, just how much you enjoyed the things you enjoyed. I feel like I don't enjoy the thing, and this goes back to the first thing you were saying in terms of the cynicism. It's like I think the results versus the process. I think the process will always be fun to the end of time, but I think enjoying the thing. I mean, I love the shit out of the things I loved back then, and I still do. And it's like, am I really an adult? Like, I only like things that I liked as a kid. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's harder to enjoy things now. I feel like than it was back then. I'm like, okay, but I'm always comparing it to some, like play a game. I'm always comparing it to a game that I loved that's 30 years old. You know what I'm saying? Even though like I know objectively that a 10-year-old would completely disagree with me. You know what I mean? And so, it's. I think it speaks a bit to that cynicism or that feeling of like, what does it even matter? You know what I'm saying? Because like when the end result isn't as sticky as it used to be in the hearts and minds of people in general, and there's always obviously there's always exceptions in the zeitgeist. You always have your Barbie, Oppenheimer, like it's clearly in the zeitgeist. It's clearly like something that the collective whole like fell in love with and you know what I mean and attached itself to. But those are so fewer and farther between. It feels like, even if it's just perception, it feels that way. And so it does lend itself to like a, what does it matter? Kind of, you know what I mean? Like I make something is not gonna stick in your heart like, you know, Rush Hour did to me, whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's like it's not gonna
Yeah.
stick in my soul the same way. Which kind of just circles back to like, at least the process is always gonna be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So was your brother your primary conduit for culture for things that you were into?
Funny enough, yeah. I mean, like when you do like the psychoanalyst, I think in a lot of ways, yeah. And he's my stepbrother, so I only saw him when I was really 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 little, like over the summer, Christmas break. You know what I'm saying? Because he went to college in the same. He didn't like go out of town for college, so he went to South Alabama for college, which is in Mobile, and my daddy lived in Mobile. So whenever I would go visit my daddy, he would still be in town because he was in college. By the time I was, 4, 5, 6, 7, those are like the years that basically he was kind of graduating high school, going to college. And so a lot of the, like, I mean, naturally, you're a little boy, you see older brother playing NES, you want to play it. You know what I'm saying? And I got an older sister who went back then, she had a Nintendo and she had a Sega Genesis, and she's not a gamer, but, she's 6 years older than me. So every kid in 1992 wanted a Super Nintendo, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
regardless if you were a boy or girl. So even though she wasn't a gamer, we still had a Super Nintendo. We had an NES. We had a Genesis back home when I spent most of the time with mama. But like, I go visit my daddy. That's when it's like I get to play the Turbo Graphics. I get to play, you know what I'm saying? I get to play different kinds of games. Like at home, we got Duck Hunt, we got Sonic. You know what I'm saying? We got Pit Fighter, you know what I'm saying? Like I got the basics, you know what I'm saying? I got Altered Beast, you know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
when, like I think just naturally when you're that young and it all seems cool, it's like he's gonna be the conduit introducing me to things that I otherwise wouldn't have been introduced to. And I think I was when it like in music too, but to a lesser extent, music, but definitely in terms of just like the video games and like just the interest in that kind of that sphere in general. I feel like I just sponged up what was around. Like, oh, that's what he's playing. He like Might and Magic. I like Might and Magic. You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't even know what it is, but I like it because it looks cool. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I would say a lot of that like clearly made a very distinct impression in terms of just like the types of things that I would grow to be interested in later.
But I think the thing that's interesting to me, like it could have been, an older sibling who was like, oh, well, you're that much younger. Get away. I don't want to like introduce stuff to you.
Oh yeah, he exact opposite. We would do because I love Temple of Doom when I was really little because I had a bunk bed. Me and my sister had a bunk bed in our room when we would go visit my daddy, and we would do the bridge scene. Like when the bridge fight went at the end of Temple
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Doom, like we would hang on the top bunk of the bunk bed. He'd be like, "Kalima," he try to rip my heart. Like this is like the stuff that like subconsciously makes you love movies, right? He would wake me up. He would wake me up like I'll go visit. You know what I'm saying? He would wake me up at like it might have been like 11, 12 at night for all I know. Yeah, but like I'll be asleep and he'd wake me up like, shh, let's go get some popcorn. We would go downstairs and play video games. And I'd be like, I'm thinking like I'm just sneaking. I feel like James Bond sneaking. He would wake me up and like take me down and pop cheese popcorn and go downstairs and like play video games. And like it might not have been 3 in the morning, but it felt like 3 in the morning. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of that, a lot of those just like hobbyist type of interest definitely came because he was very much interested in making me interested in what he was interested in. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like he definitely felt, some type of desire to pique my interest in the stuff that he was on. So, luckily it wasn't because like to your point, it's like he was in that age where he was trying to holler at girls and you know what I'm saying? Like I'm like 4, 5 years old, you know what I'm saying? And obviously like new addition to his life because, it's kind of like one of the things where he went the first 16, 17 years without a little sister and a little brother. And now he's got a little sister and a little brother in terms of like step siblings. And, but he treated us like we was his siblings, from I don't have any memory of him not being my brother because, you know, my parents got divorced when I was 1. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
By
wow.
the time I was 3, my daddy was already remarried. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, so I didn't, just perceived him like my brother.
Yeah. Did you like your parents growing up? Like, did you guys get along?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's all good. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I grew up with my mama. So I would visit my daddy over, break, summer, Christmas, that kind of stuff. And so, like I love, I love being a child of divorce. In terms of like I loved it. You know what I'm saying? I had 2 Christmases. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Uh-huh.
and my mama is like the coolest mama in the world. You know what I'm saying? So like, she's very like, she gives you, she gave me and my sister like stupid amounts of autonomy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I was, she had a very mature, you know what I'm saying, like point of view in terms of child rearing. I think in hindsight, you know what I'm saying, because we definitely had access to a lot of stuff that nobody around us had access to. Like I never couldn't watch R-rated movies. I never couldn't listen to like explicit music. I had East 1999 in first grade. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't have to go to Walmart to get my rap albums. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like I didn't have to go to Walmart and get the edited version of the rap album. You know what I'm saying? Even in kindergarten, you know what I'm saying? Like I would go to the tape store and just be like, hey, what's new? What's good? Because I didn't really, you like kindergarten, you don't really know for real, except like MC Hammer, Crisscross. But like, we had a little place called Zebra, this little record store in Tuskegee. And like I would just go in there like every couple of weeks and just be like, what's good, what's new, until I started to like develop more taste in music. I would just ask them what they like, what's new. And so that, 8 Ball and MJG, like stuff like that coming out hard. So I was in first grade and I'm like, I don't know who 8 Ball MJG is. They just came out with this album, but they said it's hard and everybody buying it. I need it. And my mama would buy it, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, you can see that it would seem like, oh, but at the same time, it's like I don't drink, I don't smoke. You know what I'm saying? Like I had a lot of freedom, but like didn't necessarily like use it to like, I didn't take advantage of it, you know what I'm saying? But she gave it to us, you know what I'm saying? And so like, and she was always just like, whatever you want to do, like you gonna be the best, you gonna be amazing. She was very like encouraging in that kind of way. So, it was a blessing in that sense. My daddy was really strict, you know what I'm saying? So he was real strict. But again, my dad had played video games, you know what I'm saying? So again, I think there is some probably genetic carryover because my daddy will be playing, Asheron's Call. He's like a PC gamer even way back when. So, he would be he would be playing the original Baldur's Gate and Asheron's Call. And he was huge. He was big on EverQuest. Like he loved EverQuest. You know what I'm saying? Loved EverQuest. And so, there's a lot of like that, he loved Star Trek. So obviously I feel like a lot of that kind of was inherited probably. At least in some sense was probably inherited. My daddy didn't stop playing video games till probably maybe like 10, 15 years ago. He don't really play video games no more, but when in the 90s, he played video games as much as me.
When you said he was strict, is he like just old school strict, or do you mean like
Yeah, I mean, just
strict?
like, no, just like, just like old school strict, like people want to spend the night in my house type, you know what I'm saying? Like, when I would go visit my daddy, I wanted friends to spend the night, and he's like, nah, be in the house. My sister, he want her to be in the house at a curfew. And like, my mama was very much, I'm saying, I had friends at my house every day. Like I had the house that everybody spent the night at. So it was very wild contrast in terms of, and I much preferred the freedom, you know what I'm saying? So it worked out great, you know what I'm saying? There's probably some kind of psychological scars that you don't know that is like a byproduct of being a single home. But, from my opinion, I was like, oh yeah, this is great.
No, it was great. I'd similar. My parents were like, they like gave me a lot of freedom, but were also very strict in certain ways. It's so a lot of what you're saying seems very, very familiar to me. And I'm kind of curious about the, like, I was a good student, and I didn't want to drink or do drugs. I was having too much fun doing other things. It didn't seem like I needed to do anything else. And I'm wondering if that was like similar for you.
Yeah, no, I was a good student. You know what I'm saying? Definitely. Like I was definitely a good student. I mean, I just wasn't never really, to your point. I think is like I was so interested in like video games and sports that it was like, I don't know, I just never really I was just very all content. I think I was a very content kid. You know what I'm saying? We moved to a neighborhood with a lot of kids. So I felt like I was very spoiled with my childhood. I was like felt very blessed because we had a whole lot of kids in my neighborhood. And they all were like, generally speaking, wanted to play games and sports all day. So when I was a kid, we would basically like, if it was summertime or like you know what I'm saying? I didn't spend a whole summer with my daddy. Like, I would go and spend, maybe like 3 weeks with, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like most of the time I was, back home in general, but like any kind of time off I was at home, we would basically like wake up, whenever we wake up, it might be 10, 15 kids in my house by like lunchtime. We might pack in my mama car, go to CC's, because back then it was like $2.99, $3.99 for the buffet. So, all these kids can eat for like $30, so you can feed 10 kids for like $30. We go in there, we play some video games at the arcade. We crunch back in my mama car, go back home. I live literally like 3 minutes from CC, so it wasn't like a drive. And then we play basketball basically till the sun go down. And then when the sun go down, we go in the house, we pull on the N64, and then we're going to play, you know what I'm saying? We're going to play something, you know what I'm saying? I moved to that neighborhood in 96. So, in 97, it was GoldenEye, you know what I'm saying? It's like Mario Kart, like, you know what I mean? 99, it was Perfect Dark, but like, we was always going to pull out that N64. And that was the, you know what I'm saying? We're going to play Mario Party. We playing something, you know what I'm saying? And so that was the routine. Wake up, play basketball, eat some CC's or something, play basketball all day. I live by the woods, so we might go do some paintball, you know what I'm saying? I had a go-kart, you know what I'm saying? So we might ride a go-kart. Like, you know what I mean? But it was like fun because all we did was like have fun all day. And then we go in and we play video games all night until we pull out blankets and sleeping bags and fall asleep. And then, you know what I'm saying? Some kids, parents didn't let them spend the night. Most kids, we live in the same neighborhood, so most kids did. And that was, if we switch it up, we might play baseball in somebody's yard. You know what I'm saying? We might play football in somebody's yard. But generally speaking, about 75% basketball, 20% football, 5% baseball slash, you know, paintball in the woods. And that was it for the day. And then we come in and play N64 all night. And then when people fall asleep, I turn on my PlayStation and I start playing my RPGs. Like, if I'm alone, I'm always playing PlayStation. If I'm with friends, I'm always playing 64. That was just the way the 90s were. And so that was, you know what I'm saying? Like I was very content. You know what I'm saying? Like it was because I lived in a neighborhood with so many kids. You know what I'm saying? And so there was always something to do just
Yeah.
in a walking radius of my house. And 9 times out of 10, people will walk to my house, you know. And so to your point, I think like I was very creatively, you know what I'm saying, like fulfilled in terms of just like consuming like, you know, movies and TV and anime and Dragon Ball Z back then. I watched Sailor Moon. You know what I'm saying? You name it, I watched it. You know what I'm saying?
Juel,
Um,
I got the nostalgia. Well, you saying all the stuff, the nostalgia is so thick in my body because this is such, it was sub
it's
out.
almost
Well,
painful.
it really it's like so like present. You like because this is almost exactly my childhood, except like we would also play hockey in the Walmart parking lot. So we would go. My friend got a net. We would set up. It was like 11 p.m. because we would still want to play some stuff, even if it was dark. Like not every night we wouldn't want to be inside. So sometimes we would go at the
100%. We play basketball at night sometimes. Just cut on the lights outside
yeah
and hoop at night. I
yeah
feel hockey in the parking lot, like it's the same, man.
yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off, my
No,
bad.
no, no, no. It's just like saying these things is all flooding. It would be after school, go play basketball for a couple hours until it gets dark. And then, I wouldn't even do my homework. I would do my homework on the bus the next day. My parents got pretty angry about this at some point, but like I was really not doing my homework at home. I was like, I would get on the bus and just pull out my books and immediately I have 20 minutes. I got to get this done
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
because you're hanging out with your friends. But the thing I think that really hit me was you saying just like how fulfilling it was, how content. Because that's right. Because it was the same thing. I had a neighborhood full of friends. We were always playing, always doing stuff, always making things, and I think I just never wanted to do anything else. And that's the spirit I think that got in me. That then I didn't know this is all what I wanted to do, but I think that spirit is what eventually I discovered. It's like, oh right, that's the stuff that I like about writing and making films or making TV or whatever. That collaborative spirit. Or I'm searching for that again, I guess, is what I'm looking for in doing this.
100%. I would 100% agree with that because I do think like growing up with like that much camaraderie around you at all times, it's like you're searching to like feel that, you know what I'm saying? And then this goes back to like while the process is enjoyable, but like, it's kind of up in the air what happens after that is like, nobody wants to write something and then like invest all this emotional capital and then it comes out and nobody watches it or fucking comes out and, Rotten Tomatoes shits on whatever it is. It's like it's not even why you enjoy doing it in the first place. You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, it feels great if people like the movie, if it gets a high Rotten Tomato score. But, it's like when you go back and you think, you know, 5 years from the time of making something or writing something, you're not going to remember the screening of the movie. You're going to remember like when you were on set. You're like, like the things I remember from Tyrone are all like me and Tony like scrambling, like we were getting ready to pitch it. You know what I'm saying? The hectic nature of the pitch, the
Yeah.
writing it with the playlist, being on set during COVID, and like all of the crazy shit. Like you remember the actual making of, like in your nostalgia bank does not, you know, does not prioritize the post-release part of it the same way. It's not encased in amber the same way. I already have nostalgia for being on the Tyrone set, and it was miserable in terms of it was cold. It was fucking end of 2020, COVID,
Oh.
and they were putting 6-inch Q-tips up your nose. Like it was miserable, and yet it was also like summer camp in a lot of ways because everybody was the crew was sequestered and we were sequestered in a house, and it was like feeling like he was on summer camp or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so it's like you still, you still have those pockets of fellowship and camaraderie and contentment within the process. Like, because it was just fun to make.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Well, it was
saying?
like you
So
were back home with everyone staying over at your house, sleeping over.
yeah, exactly, right. Like we get very like Freudian, we get into like the therapy of it, but I think there is something to that, though.
Yeah.
I completely think there's something to that.
Yeah. Juel, thank you for joining me today. It was such
Oh
a
yeah,
delight.
man. This is like one of the most like in depth. I don't think I've ever talked about some of these things in an interview before. Like kind of right out the jump, you know what I'm saying? So it's I feel almost sad. I feel like I'm about to go home and pull out my Dreamcast and play Shenmue. Like that's how I feel leaving this interview. I'm like,
Dreamcast. Oh my
this ain't it.
God.
This isn't an interview. This is a cathartic conversation about nostalgia and its presence in our current filmmaking landscape. That's what I feel like walking into this conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, man.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, oh, 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 bye.